Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Welcome to our Westchester Weekly Update. Today is Monday, March 27th, and we're here to give you a brief idea of some of the issues that are affecting us in Westchester County, share some information with you, and encourage your feedback to us. I'll be joined in a few minutes by Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins. We're going to go through some actions that have occurred on the legislative side of the agenda, some of the activities that we have coming up through some of our different departments, and some special programs that we're going to be holding out in the community. But I have a very special guest today, and I want to get to him right away. We have here in the Hudson Valley a number of counties that share issues and priorities together. Orange County, Dutchess County, Rockland County, Putnam County, go up the river a little bit to Ulster County, a little inland to Sullivan County. All of us in the lower Hudson Valley are partners. We're brothers and sisters in some of the same issues. We deal with issues that relate to the Hudson River, that relate to our transportation routes, our thruway and Taconic Parkway. We deal with tourism as a group. And I've benefited quite greatly by leaning on some of my fellow county executives and their wisdom and their advice as some of these issues arise. One of those individuals is Steve Newhouse, who's Orange County Executive. He comes to his position as a county executive having previously been a town supervisor in the town of Chester, and he's also an active member of our United States Navy. He is serving us, when he is not serving as a county executive, as a commander and assistant inspector general for the Navy, and he's been deployed a number of times overseas on behalf of the country, even as he has been the elected county executive. So Steve has served in a couple of different capacities. We have different political party affiliations, but that doesn't stop us from working together, and hopefully in the weeks to come we'll have Kevin Byrne, the new Putnam County executive, with us here, Ed Day, the Rockland County executive, to show that we try to find commonality here so that we can move things forward that benefit all of our residents. So without any further ado, let me introduce to you the executive of Orange County, Steve Newhouse. Steve, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, George.
Your friends in Westchester are happy to hear you.
I have my sister-in-law lives here, so it's a number of friends and relatives live here, and a lot of my residents work here. So it's an honor to be here, County Executive, as I know you, George. You've been tremendously helpful to not only me, but other county execs throughout the state, not only because of your past of you working in Albany as a senator, but you guys were the first one through the gates for the pandemic. And a lot of folks don't know this, but the Association of Counties actually had daily conference calls. And many a times, County Executive Latimer led those calls to say, hey, folks, this is what you can expect. This is what you can do to prepare for the pandemic. And that was quite helpful to myself. I know Ed Day and the other county execs north of you here were very, very appreciative of what you did. So Orange County is, we represent areas like West Point, Woodbury Commons is there, just to try to give people an idea where we are. We have the Delaware River on one side of us, and we have the Hudson on the other side, and we have about 400,000 residents. Our budget is about $900 million, so we're close to $1 billion. And we have a number of different type of economic generators in the county, a lot of businesses, healthcare that you see here in Westchester, but we also have a lot of tourism. So, and tourism being, I mentioned West Point, we also have Storm King Art Center. Woodbury Commons, believe it or not, is a huge tourism attraction. About 13 million people alone come to Woodbury Commons every year. But latest to our portfolio is Legoland, which is the biggest Legoland in the world right now. And it is a really wonderful addition to what we have here in Orange County. It is obviously, I call it a kids park on steroids. They look for ages between 2 and 12 years old to attract, and it's been phenomenally successful. And as a county executive, I'm very appreciative of not only the relationship we have with them, but the robust revenues that we have that come from Legoland. We have about $1 million alone comes in hotel motel tax alone. So they have really brought a lot of attention. We're seeing spin-off tours of attractions, not only hotels coming, but other types of theme parks. We're seeing adventure theme parks. We're even looking, kicking the tires on bringing in a dinosaur park. So all these things are bringing not only revenue, but the jobs and attention to our county. We have a great budget. We've done very well financially. I've been in county executive 10 years now, and when I came in, it was very, very difficult, and we were struggling with revenues. But we are predominantly funded by sales tax. And then it breaks down into revenues coming from state and federal government and fees, as well as obviously property taxes. So sales tax is our bread and butter, so we want to continue to grow those private sector attracting businesses, as well as manufacturers, anybody that pays sales tax in Orange County. Why is that important? We have the lowest tax rate since 1963, and we think it could probably go, it's probably even longer than that, but the records that we have take us down in 1963. So we're actually seeing residents seeing a property tax bill relief, and I'm going to do my state of the county address in mid-April, and I'm going to use my personal house as an example to show people where the property taxes have gone down. So we're pretty proud of that. Another thing, I'm a military guy, as my friend George said. I've deployed 4 times in the last 12 years. Most recently, a year ago, I went to Europe, and one of the things, I love it, it's a wonderful experience. I'm so honored to serve, and you would be so proud of how diverse our military is. So when you see on the news, people can't get along, different parties. I've never had an argument with George. I've always asked him for help. I think he's asked me maybe once. So it's like a 1 to 10 ratio of help. But in the military, if anybody's not familiar with it, and this has happened to me a number of times as a young officer and now is getting up as a senior officer, they assign you 10 or 20 people, and they're men and women, and they're different sexes, different sexual orientations and colors, and you name it, everything about it. And they say, we don't care if you like each other. Here's your mission. We'll see you in 6 months, or we'll see you in a year. You guys figure it out. And I will tell you, you become best friends with these people. And I think it's just such a great example of how great this country is, and how the strength of the diversity of this country, and how we could really push everything aside, get a job done, and God have it, we become good friends afterwards. So anyway, I deployed a year ago to Europe, and every time I deploy, I learn something differently. And I was working for the commander of the 6th Fleet a year ago, and all hell was breaking loose in Europe, and we had the most ships probably since the end of World War II in the Mediterranean and all around the North Sea, all that area, to protect the rest of our allies from any other further problems with the Russians at the time. But I learned one great thing. The commander of the 6th Fleet, the admiral, would come in the morning, 8:30, we'd have a thing, and I was the battle watch captain. And he wanted reports from around the area, Europe, all our bases, and he would come in and he'd have a half hour. He'd get a form a couple hours before with a summary of what happened in the last 24 hours, what is the future operations, and what are the problems. And we would color code the problems, meaning green means the unit's good, they're good to go. So they would go around the room, the unit report, we're green, good to go, we'll go to the next unit. If they were yellow, that means they were having issues, whether they were having aggression put towards them, or they were low on supplies, or fuel, or sometimes the crew was sick, or the units on the ground couldn't function. And then red means that they're incapable of operations. So I've incorporated that with my department heads. I have 38 department heads, and every week, so I don't do it daily, but every week I have them report in to my team. And my chief of staff, she gives me this compilation, and by the way, it's shared amongst all the other department heads, so other department heads will know if somebody else is having problems. So it's been highly successful for us, and that's where I'm able to at least use the benefits of my experience and education in the military to help the taxpayers in Orange County. We have 3 cities, very diverse, and we have a number of municipalities, towns, and villages. And we work very close together. As the supervisor mentioned, as the county exec mentioned, I was a town supervisor before I was county executive. So every month I attend the monthly meeting of the supervisors and mayors, and I'm sitting there. They ask me to speak every month. I usually give a couple-minute update of what's going on, but it's immensely important, especially during emergency operations. And one of the biggest things that I'm going to end on talking about emergency management, one of the biggest fears I have, and I think every elected official, is seeing what happens across America, an active shooter situation, maybe a train derailment, mass casualty event. So we constantly train for all sorts of apocalyptic type of events. My commissioner of emergency management is a 35-year retired state trooper. The deputy commissioner, 30-plus years in Army Special Operations, was shot down in Afghanistan, was part of the bin Laden raid. So these people, as well as the men and women that make up our emergency team, are battle-hardened either in the military, fire, police, or EMS. So last year on Election Day, so just a few months ago, we did a full-scale active shooter drill at one of our schools. We brought in all the teachers. Now, I did it on Election Day because everybody was off. All the schools were closed. So I can bring in administrators and school representatives, teachers representatives, to watch how an active shooter scene actually plays out. We hired a videographer. We videotaped the entire thing. And I'm getting ready to release a video that one is going to be meant towards faculty and staff of schools, one is going to be meant for parents, and one is going to be used for first responders as a training tool. The last thing I'm going to say about emergency management is what we learned about the Buffalo Bills, where the player had the heart attack on the field. Right away, he was administered CPR and life-saving skills. And one of my other things is I was a volunteer firefighter, and I remember showing up to someone's house on Christmas. A mother was not breathing, and I showed up at the house, and nobody at the house had known how to do CPR. And unfortunately, we were not able to save that individual, but it stuck with me. And it was a reminder with the Buffalo Bills football players. So we're doing a major campaign countywide, and we're going to train anybody for free with CPR. And I know towns, villages, and ambulance corps do their own thing, and if they have a great operation, fine, we'll go to the next town, we'll go to the next school district. But we have school districts right now that we're going to be implementing CPR for kids high school. Some of them are even asking us to do middle school. And what does that entail? They'll know the basic skills on CPR. They will also know how to administer Narcan if the school chooses to allow that. We also have another mental health program where they're able to detect if maybe one of their family members or a classmate is suffering from some type of mental illness, and what type of resources are available for assistance. So we are super proud of what we're doing in emergency management. I have a phenomenal team. I'm just lucky to be the county executive here. And George, I really appreciate you welcoming me here today. You do a great operation. And again, all the help you give us is super helpful to the rest of the counties. We have 62 counties in New York State. 5 are in the borough of New York City. They're all part of our team, Republican and Democrat, and we really work well together to get the job done. So thank you.
Steve, thank you very much.
Appreciate being here today. Thank you.
Steve Newhouse, County Executive of Orange County.
Thank you.
And a great partner on these issues when they arise. It's a pleasure to work with you. Back in the COVID days, the governor at the time tossed down a county executives to make a decision about high-impact sports. So we were all on the phone. Mark Molinaro, who's now a congressman, Mary Ellen Odell, who's completed her service in Putnam, Steve, myself, and Ed Day. We were just 5 guys figuring it out.
Yeah.
And it's
Thank
a great
you again.
experience.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Steve Newhouse, thank you very much for being with us. And of course, in the days to come, we will invite our colleagues from those other counties that I've mentioned before. Eric Byrne from Putnam County, Ed Day from Rockland County. I think are both scheduled to come in. And as much as we have our municipal partners come in and talk about the towns and the villages and the cities of Westchester County to give you an idea of what's happening elsewhere in Westchester, so we like the opportunity to share with you what some of our regional partners are from other counties. As I said at the outset, we share certain very prominent issues together, and it's important for us to show that there is a cooperative work and cooperative work across the aisle, so that while there are some issues for which there are philosophical divisions, by and large, to get the job done, we work together, and I'm very happy that Steve could be with us today to share with you Orange County information. So I'll ask Ken Jenkins to join me here at the podium. We'll go through a few other things we want to cover today. First of all, I want to highlight that the Westchester County Board of Legislators has passed last Monday night a bill that we had submitted, the idea and the concept. I'm proud to say it was my idea, but not out of the clear blue sky. In the aftermath of the George Santos scandal, we crafted a truthful disclosure bill, which went before the Board of Legislators. I will be signing that into law a little bit later this week. When it was passed unanimously by the Board of Legislators, meaning it was a bipartisan approval, actually a tripartisan approval, because we have both a Republican, conservative, and Democratic presence on that. What the bill does is very simple. It requires every candidate for county legislator or county executive, once they've qualified for the ballot, that qualification comes when you submit sufficient petition signatures and the Board of Elections receives them and certifies that there's sufficient signatures and you're now on the ballot, either for primary, if you have an opponent for that position from within your party, or in November, if you're the candidate of one of the particular parties. Once you've been certified as a candidate, you must submit a document to our Westchester County Board of Ethics. And that document is very simple. Consider it like a resume, what you would submit if you were looking for a job from any organization, private or nonprofit sector. The requirements is to accurately define in this document your basic personal information, more importantly, your educational background, your employment background, and if you have military service, your military background, and to state them in an honest and truthful fashion. If you attended college, that you attended. If you hold a degree from that college, that you hold a degree from that college. Any other additional details you provide at your own choice. Your employment history going back at least a reasonable amount of time, and where it indicates who you've worked for, what period of time, what the title was of where you worked, and to some degree what your duties were in that situation. And if you have had military service, like my friend Steve Newhouse, that you identify it, and the important element of it is that you identify it accurately and clearly so there's no misunderstanding. The people who have earned their college degree, the people who have actually worked for a corporation and done the work necessary, the people that have served our government in the military, each of those are achievements and accomplishments, and they shouldn't be taken on by somebody in the space of a few minutes to take credit for something that it took years for somebody else to achieve. So this truthful disclosure bill requires you to certify what your background is on those issues, submit it to the Board of Ethics. Once that's done, it now becomes a public document, and under the laws of New York State, the Freedom of Information Law, FOIL law, if you will, individuals in the public, the media, now have access to it. And when they have access to it, they have a chance to scrutinize it. On one level, to see what it says, and if any choose to do a little bit of investigation, determine if the information is true, then that is open to them. And it's done and filed at a time before a primary and before a general election. So if there are inaccuracies or outright falsehoods, that information becomes public knowledge before the person stands for election. What's also important is that if you make a substantial misrepresentation, a falsehood, a lie, if you will, on the document, and that would have to be determined in a hearing and a review, if it's significant enough, you will be subject to civil penalties and fining of that nature. No one can stop you from running at that point, but it will be apparent to everybody that you did not go to Baruch College. You were not on the volleyball team that beat Harvard. You did not work at Goldman Sachs. You did not, do these things that are being asserted, which, frankly, when you tell those things, you're trying to get people to be impressed so that they will vote for you. They should know exactly what it is that you actually have done and have achieved accurately, and that's what the Truthful Disclosure Bill does. Now, it affects only county legislative positions and county executive positions because that is all the authority that we in Westchester County government have. We cannot regulate the other two county elected officials, the county clerk and the district attorney. Those are created through state law directly, and those requirements are established at the state level. And then certainly any state or federal positions, or for that matter, local positions, city, town, village positions, those are outside of the control of the county government. We think this bill can be replicated. Ideally, at the state or the federal level, there would be legislation of this nature, and it could go further because the state has much more authority than the county does to require candidates to be able to do certain things. And of course, the federal government has the ultimate power if they choose to use it. But any county, and certainly any municipality, city, town, or village, can create these requirements for the elections of positions that are within their local charter. And we certainly encourage that. So we hope that villages and towns and cities will look at having their version of this bill that would govern local elections as well. It's not that we're dealing with a widespread problem that is rampant, but we've seen the most extreme example of untruthfulness, and it's become an embarrassment. It's a bit of a humorous embarrassment, but it's a sincere problem, because what it does is undermine confidence in people that you elect to office. If one person could lie about everything, well, they're all liars. None of them are trustworthy. And the minute you do that, you start eroding away, you start chipping away at the bedrock of democracy. In democracy, you get to choose who you want in office. You can pick a person from this party, you can pick that person. In a primary, you have a choice between different people that are competing. But if you think that the whole choice is a choice between everybody who's a liar, everybody who's a crook, then you don't interact with the process at all. And when you step outside the process, the door is opened for a truly bad actor to step forward. And as we see, this has happened, unfortunately, in every democracy known to mankind prior to ours. A demagogue arrives, and they arrive without any qualms about using every trick in the book to succeed in gaining power. And then usually bad things come from that. It happened in the Roman Empire, and this is just Westchester County government, but the principle is at stake. So the truthful disclosure law, we think, is a step forward. Later this week, I will be signing it into law, and we're very happy to do that. We think it is the proper response to an issue like this. We've all had our jokes and Facebook wisecracks, and the late night comedians have had a field day with George Santos's misrepresentations. But we have to go beyond that, and we hope that this is a good first step. And we thank the Board of Legislators for their diligence. They made changes from the original draft, and we accepted those changes as being positive changes, and now we put it into law. I also want to highlight a few other things here, and I'm going to ask my colleague Ken Jenkins to talk about some of the other activities that are coming up on Earth Week. But before we get to Earth Week, we have started a series of unclaimed funds sessions at various locations around the county. Unclaimed funds represents money that is owed to an individual from some source that was supposed to send a check to them, and for whatever reason was unable to reach the party that was deserving of the money. And what New York State does under the Office of Comptroller Thomas DiNapoli is be the depository for those funds, that you can then go online, search, and find out whether or not you are owed money. And why would you be owed money? You might be owed money because you had a change in your name. You might have had a change in address between the time that something was coming to you and where you wound up moving to. There could have been a mistake in the address, and so whatever it was not returned to you as proper. It could be a reimbursement check, a dividend check. It could be a deposit you left on an apartment for a utility and you moved, and they didn't know where you moved to, and so they couldn't get you the check. Whatever it is, this registry, the Office of Unclaimed Funds, allows a searchable program. You can go online. It's very simple, osc.state.ny.us/OUF, Office of Unclaimed Funds. And you can check for yourself right now. But for many people, the ability to get online, to feel comfortable with something like this is a little more cumbersome. But the money still resides in the fund. So we've begun a series of sessions out in the community at local civic locations, civic centers, and community centers with county legislators and our office and the Office of Comptroller Tom DiNapoli to make it easy for any individual to come, sit down. We'll do the search for you. We'll generate the form that you have to complete in order for you to claim the money. And this is legitimate. This is not a scam. You might get a letter in the mail saying, oh, you're owed money and we can get it for you. Well, those companies do it, and they extract 30% of the total cost. You deserve 100% of it, so this is provided free of charge. Just last week in the village of Rye Brook, County Legislator Nancy Barr and myself and staff members, Joseph Orlando, who works for State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli, we were there, computers up, and we were able to help deal with 100 or so individuals. We used the Garibaldi Place location of the Pasilipos Senior Center, and any number of people came in and benefited by being there. I'd say roughly 1 out of 4 people found that they had some money coming to them or to an immediate relative, a child or a spouse or so forth. We intend to do that this week in the city of Rye on Wednesday, at the Rye Recreation Center, 281 Midland Avenue. If you'd like some detailed information, 967-2535 would call into the center and they'll tell you about it. You can come from anywhere to come to any of these sessions. You could do this at home yourself if you want to. But we're going to move this all around the county. We have some plans to be in Portchester and Yonkers and in Mount Kisco and some other parts. And this is a cooperative project with the members of the County Board of Legislators. As I mentioned, Nancy Barr last week, Catherine Parker this week. So we're going to try to do this in a way to help you get your money back. And with this, we're going to start the program this Wednesday, March 29th, in Rye, at the Rye Recreation Center. Damiano Recreation Center begins at 1 o'clock. And we invite people who are in that area of the county to come and to see if you're owed money. And hopefully you'll have some. And then you can actually say that the system of government worked for you and got your money back that you were owed. I'm going to invite Ken Jenkins to touch on some of the parks-related issues that we have to report on today. Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins.
Thanks, boss. Thanks, George. And the unclaimed funds thing, I know I looked up, and it's important, as a county executive Latimer was just pointing out, not only to check yourselves and your family members locally, but a lot of times we had family members that passed away and we were executors for estates, et cetera. A lot of times that happens, especially with accounts that were closed out and they were having a minimum balance, but it is a tremendous program the state comptroller does, and it really is a great effort for County Executive Latimer with the county legislator of an area to do that. The first one, I just wanted to point out again, was supposed to be in Yonkers, but unfortunately it was held in the Scotty Center, where the people from the 671 Bronx River Road fire were residing, and it was wisely pushed off. But again, take advantage of going out to that and be there with the county executive and the comptroller's office to make sure that happens. Next month is Parks Month. We had a great weekend, at least on Sunday. Saturday was really rainy and bully, so folks weren't on the golf courses, but certainly on Sunday, it was a beautiful day and everyone was taking advantage of the beautiful weather and being out on the nationally accredited award system, park system, whether that was walking on the trailway, playing in one of our golf courses, or just getting a chance to look at the nature in one of the over 50 different parks that we have available to you. So from March 31st to April 8th, we're kicking into high season. The Parks Department loves this time, but now through Friday, March 31st, Hilltop Hanover Farm is accepting orders for its spring plant sale via its online store. We know our communications team has that website up online. The plant sale includes flowers and vegetable transplants. They're regionally grown, certified organic herbs and flowers, and native plants. The prices range from $3.75 to $7.50 per item, and there is a $25 minimum. Purchases will be available for pickup from Friday, May 12th through Sunday, May 14th, right around Mother's Day, to make sure to get your bulbs involved and get engaged. I know that we're starting to do that. Folks that have personal gardens, there's crocuses starting to come up. We got lilies popping up because of the warm weather in the winter. Some of our flowers didn't know exactly what was going on, but this is a great opportunity for you through our Parks Department to be able to get that. Once again, you should get that number for Hilltop Hanover Farm, which is 914-862-5050, and that's the annual plant sale that happens at Hilltop Hanover Farms, and it's a wonderful event to get involved in. On April 1st, this week on Saturday, April 1st, both launches start daily, weather permitting, whether it's at Glen Island Park, New Rochelle, and George Island Park in Montrose. There's a parking and boat launch fee that applies. But again, for those folks that love the water, and I know so many folks enjoy the weather, whether it's on the Long Island Sound or our lovely Hudson River, starting April 1st through county parks, some boat launches begin. Again, weather permitting. April 2nd from 9:30 to 2:30, and then every Sunday until November 19th. So April 2nd till November 19th, 9:30 to 2:30 every Sunday. We have farmers markets at Muscoot Farm in Somers. That weekly farmers market supports farmers and sustainable efforts in our area, featuring more than 20 local vendors each week. Again, it's a wonderful event. You never know, you might bump into the county executive while he's shopping at one of those farmers markets. Loves to be out there with all of us, whether it's in the county legislators for the area in Somers, specifically Legislator Vidat Gashi, and many members of the community being involved at Muscoot Farm. Again, April 2nd, right through November 19th, 9:30 to 2:30 every Sunday. And Saturday, April 8th, from 1 to 2:30 p.m. at the Lenoir Preserve in Yonkers. Let's be friends, so April 8th, so get it on your calendar now. Let's be friends, so that's the B, that's like our beeline. So from the queen to the drone, these amazing creatures work hard in pollinating our favorite plants. Join us for a look inside the incredible world of bees. It's for all ages, and you could just check that out again at the Lenoir Preserve in Yonkers, right on North Broadway. So we have so many things happening in our nationally accredited park system, parks.westchestergov.com. Take a look at the many programs. Back to you, George.
Thanks very much, Ken. A couple of other things that we want to highlight for you. First of all, last week we had village elections in a number of different villages. There are less villages holding elections now this time of the year than there have been historically. A number of them have moved their elections to November, most recently Larchmont, Tuckahoe, and Hastings. But we want to send out congratulations to Mary Marvin, who is the mayor of the village of Bronxville. She was reelected. Louis Marino, the mayor of Portchester, was reelected. Justin Arist is the new mayor, former village trustee, new mayor of the village of Scarsdale. And we have some other individuals who've been elected, certainly village trustees and other positions. There'll be a rundown of that information available, and over the course of the coming weeks, we will invite all of those who are elected mayors or chief executives of their villages to come join us as one of our folks on the executive committee. We think that'll be a great opportunity for you to meet them and to see what their issues and their ideas on. Earth Week is coming up. April is the month that we often attribute as we start to go into the spring season with environmental issues. And with Earth Week, the Westchester Department of Environmental Facilities will host a series of tours at our Compost Ed facility, which is on our Valhalla campus, the Grasslands campus. During the course of the tour of this composting facility, residents will learn about the benefits and the science of composting and all about the county's refuse disposal district's food waste diversion efforts. Residents will learn about other county environmental initiatives, about Planting Westchester, and our work of our Office of Energy Conservation and Sustainability. You need to register online. I don't know if we're showing this in a scroll around the screen, but Compost Ed at westchestergov.com, or you can call our recycling helpline at 914-813-5425. The Compost Ed facility was created just a couple of years ago as a means to give a demonstration of how people can compost in your backyard if you have sufficient land, and then also from a municipal standpoint, if the community has land that they can designate for composting. Keep in mind, whatever we compost, we're disposing of in an environmentally appropriate way, and we're keeping it out of our waste stream. Over the last 20 or 30 years, we've dropped the amount of waste generated in Westchester County dramatically, but we still have to dispose of something to the tune of 300 to 350,000 tons of garbage a year. We want that number to continue to come down. It comes down as we add more recycling efforts across the board. We've spotlighted some municipal communities. Scarsdale comes to mind, where they've done a particularly exceptional job of finding ways to recycle more than just sort of the standard things that we do, paper, plastics, metal, and so forth. And we're hoping to see how we can replicate that in other communities across the county. That will reduce what goes into the waste system that we're responsible to pick up at the various transfer stations. Keep those numbers down. It's good for the environment, and it's a good cost-saving measure. Compost Ed is one of those ways that you can learn more about it, and so you're welcome to interact with us during the Earth Week month. Again, 914-813-5425 will get you that information. and we think that will be helpful as well. And then, of course, during the month of April, we intend to have other announcements about environmental initiatives, things that involve electrical vehicle charging stations. We have some legislation that we're working with the Board of Legislators. We'll present publicly during that month. We think all of that will be a good look, hopefully a helpful good look. In the week ahead, the New York State Legislature will be dealing up to the Friday, March 31st deadline with the proposed New York State budget for 2022-2023. It was released by the governor back in February, and there's been much discussion about it. I'll keep it nice and general for now. Discussion usually focuses on a half a dozen or a dozen controversial issues. We've touched on some of them before. Over the course of the next few days, our state legislators will be in Albany around the clock trying to hammer out whatever compromises can be made. Hopefully they can be made in time for the deadline of the budget on Friday the 31st. And one of our neighbors, Andrea Stewart Cousins, who's a New York State Senator, is the leader of the New York State Senate, and she is, they say in the movie, in the play Hamilton, she is in the room where it happens, along with Carl Hastie, our neighbor just over the border in the North Bronx, who leads the Assembly. And all of the members of our Assembly and Senate delegation have input on these issues. We turn to them and interact with them on things. There's some issues that deal with the county government directly that probably don't get much public attention, and then there are public issues of great attention. So I encourage you, for those of you who follow these issues, there's many different places you can do that, online settings, and those legislators are very anxious to hear from you, and their doors are open, their phones are open, their staff, and they themselves too are part of it. We did a couple of sessions earlier in the month of April with State Senator Shelley Mayer and State Assemblyman Steve Otis along the Sound Shore, one session in Rye, one in Larchmont, both County Legislator Catherine Parker and myself being with them. There was one in Harrison that Senator Mayer and Assemblyman Chris Burdick did. And these kind of outreach meetings helps get some input on these issues. But this is the week where we head toward the end of the budget cycle. Now, if the budget is not adopted by the 31st, as of April 1st, we go into the new budget year, and the budget is officially late. The worst of it really happened over 20 years ago, where we had continual budgets that were late by multiple months. In the last 20 years, there's only been one budget that has gone that late, and we've had a number of on-time budgets. And from a functional standpoint, if the budget is a few days late, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days late, it doesn't affect anything in practical terms. When you get beyond a week to 10 days, then there are some practical implications that are negative. And having been a state legislator in that 1 year where we had a late budget, we stopped getting paychecks. We still have to pay mortgage payments, but we stopped getting paychecks. So there is a sanction on the legislators. But I wouldn't want to put the burden of this on the legislators alone. It is a matter of the governor, who holds tremendous power in this process, to negotiate certain changes that are necessary, because the legislature may have some very strong policy positions that reflect the way most of us feel in the government. So it's the give and take. We have this at the county level. It's a different climate at the county level. We've never had a late budget under any administration, under any county legislature. But we find ways to get to compromise in time. We hope that will happen, and we hope that by next week we'll be able to give you a rundown on the state budget. We'll give you an update one way or the other, but hopefully it's a rundown of what's been adopted, and hopefully the news will be good in some of those areas that we're closely monitoring, but we'll see how it goes. Another announcement, this Friday at 2 p.m., I will be signing an executive order to deal with the issues and concerns about prejudicial actions against members of the LGBTQ plus community. We've had similar executive orders issued previously on anti-Asian hatred, on anti-Semitism. We have some in the works that involve racism directed to our African-American brothers and sisters, and future ones for the Hispanic community and other communities that have been the source and the subject of prejudice. We will be signing that executive order this Friday at 2 p.m. It happens to be the Trans Day of Visibility as well that day. Judy Troilo and Jeffrey Gard, both from the Loft, will be joining us here today for that. And the International Transgender Day of Visibility is an annual event targeted every year on March 31st nationwide. It celebrates transgendered people. It raises awareness of discrimination that may be faced by transgendered people worldwide. And it's very important to understand that we live in a multicultural world. There are people who look different than us, who have different faith beliefs than us. The color of our skins are different, but we all live together in this same patch of earth at this same moment in time. And what we're seeking is to live in harmony with each other and to accept each other, and then out of that that diversity to be able to form a strong union, e pluribus unum, out of many, one, and that one response is a powerful societal response that helps us deal with the problems that our society faces. This is the human aspiration. This is the aspiration of democracy, in which it is never completely perfect. The Constitution was for a more perfect union, and we seek that perfect union, more perfect union every day. But by recognizing that there is prejudice in the world, and what a prejudice does is to prejudge a person, to judge them by the externality of the color of their skin, their gender, their age, whatever those things might be, their sexual identification. And we're looking to avoid prejudgment. You judge a person by the way they behave. You judge the person by what they do. If a person commits a crime, we deal with them on that level. If a person is a person of good spirit who tries to help other people, we judge them on that basis. Dr. Martin Luther King said it best, that you judge a person not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. This Friday, we will celebrate those individuals who, by the content of their character, deserve to be recognized and deserve equal treatment across this diverse society that we have. With those things in mind, I think we've covered everything. We appreciate your attention. We understand that not everything is always equally interesting in these reports, but we're trying to give you some information. And if there's any questions you have, you're welcome to reach out to us. You can reach us in the executive branch of the county government at 914-995-2900. That will reach Ken, myself, or any of our senior executives. For those in the media who want to reach out specifically to our Director of Communications, Catherine Chaffee, 995-2932. We'll reach her desk. If there's any issues, any follow-up that you need, the Westchester County Board of Legislators, those 17 members, one of whom represents you if you're a Westchester resident, you can reach them generally at 914-995-2800. And we welcome your input, and we hopefully will work together as these issues go along. I'm George Latimer. Thanks for watching. We're planning to be with you next month as we enter the month of April. And we hope that spring will be sprung and we'll be able to enjoy our parks and everything else about the nice warm weather. We've gotten through the winter, so now we should be able to enjoy the spring. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.